We wanted to on Monday talk about Qualcomm and its big FTC win when it's the FTC's en banc hearing request got denied. But it was also Qualcomm's earnings week. And so I think we can kind of duel up on this one. And I'll start with a little bit of commentary here, but there's a lot here. So I'm going to start talking about some things, Pat, on a really broad level, but I'm going to let you dive into some of the stuff related to the growth in its QCT business. Broad level, you heard me mention the en banc thing. So over the last couple of years, Qualcomm has been in a battle, a series of battles, regulatory, around the world with just about every FTC on the planet renegotiating its licensing deals. That's in China, that was in Taiwan, that was in Japan. It also had a massive undertaking when Apple decided to pursue a legal action against the company. That was settled. And as I think many of you saw, a 5G Apple iPhone announcement last week. Well, guess what? Powered by Qualcomm. So those two companies have made up. But there was one sort of outstanding battle that was left to be fought, and that was with the FTC. Not enough time to give the whole backstory, but initially the FTC won their ruling in the Ninth Circuit when Judge Lucy Koh essentially was told Qualcomm they were going to have to negotiate their licensing deals, and it was going to be in much less favorable terms to Qualcomm. That ruling was overturned in the Court of Appeals. However, the FTC did not seem to be satisfied with that, and the FTC then requested what's called an en banc hearing and wanted to get in front of a larger panel of judges to see if this could be brought back to life, and therefore pushing Qualcomm to, Pat, have to battle further over their licensing structure. Bottom line, this thing got unanimously rejected, did not go through, end of story. Bigger fish to fry for regulatory space right now. And so Qualcomm seems to be in the clear. Now, the company had a huge result, huge earnings and huge revenue growth. Revenues in the 30%, earnings in the 80s on a lot of different things, which I'm going to let you talk about in a moment. But one of the things that I've said for a long time, and you and I got to talk to Steve Mollenkopf, the CEO, the night after earnings, was the stock in the company had been sort of under this gray cloud, this dark cloud for a while because of all this regulation. And now that this is behind it, you can tell the company's more focused. It's delivering way more on the promise of the new technologies like 5G. But it's also really encouraging to its investor community and to its partner community to know that they're not going to get bought out by some crazy Broadcom deal when they're at their weakest point. And there's not some regulatory that's looming in the background that's going to take the company in a really risky direction. All right, I covered a lot about the case and the regulatory path, but there was a ton of news on the actual earnings results and the growth itself. I'll let you cover that.
Yeah, it sounds good. And the good news about this one, Daniel, is there is a lot of oxygen left in the room here. So what I'd like to focus on in Qualcomm is its growth areas. You know, Qualcomm is really known as the modem company, right? 4G, 3G, 5G, and also its intellectual property that comes with it. But what I was really glad about is that Qualcomm actually broke out for investors for the entire year, every quarter in 2020 fiscal and fiscal 2019, which was actually a lot more than I expected. And what it did is it pointed out that Qualcomm has non-modem, non-IP businesses that are actually bigger than many companies, entire companies. And I think that's pretty cool. Two that I want to focus in on. The first one is an RF front end. So for those who aren't necessarily engineers out here, it takes two to tango to make your phone work. It requires a digital modem, and then it requires an RF front end to talk with the base station. And the two of those actually make the phone connect. Qualcomm said that for FY20, their RF front end business was $2.4 billion. And, you know, it's funny. I did a little bit of a victory lap on this one, Daniel, because I had talked about Qualcomm being as big as possibly Qorvo, Skyworks, and Broadcom here. And I ended up being right. And, you know, you look at the comparisons, you break out mobile RF FE, and Qualcomm is larger than most of them. And I think that's a huge deal. Automotive, right? Qualcomm talks about its $8 billion in backlog, right? And I think most of that will start hitting in 2022. But the cool part is they have a $640 million business right now. And a lot of that has to do with telematics and in-dash. And surprise, their automotive business is bigger than NVIDIA's. So just crazy. And just to round that out, their IoT business, which is think of smartwatches, Bluetooth LE, is a $3 billion business, which you have to line up against Silicon Labs and also Synaptics. So big surprises here, Daniel. The Uber question: is Qualcomm tired of winning yet?
Well, it's a question that, again, the company wasn't having the luxury to answer for about 2.5 years while it was under just a series of duress. But the tech never wobbled. It was always going to be the next winner. And in America, in the United States, when it comes to the intellectual property and patents associated with 3GPP, which supports 5G, Pat, Qualcomm's in a great position, and the company's, it needs its business models protected to make sure the U.S. continues to innovate on the mobile front.
Quick question from our audience here. 5 years down the line, if SpaceX satellite internet program works, how relevant is 5G? This is an easy one. Satellite is going to be low bandwidth, and 5G is going to be high bandwidth. And I'll pretty much leave it at that. I mean, even when you compare low band 5G, comparing it to satellite. Now, for the rural communities is probably where the big question is going to be. And I think in rural communities, what SpaceX is doing is going to be competitive. So thanks for the question.